you please explain how Shaul HaMelech had such a tragic kingship despite being so righteous? He didn't even want to be a king in the first place. Did Ruach Shtut take away his free will? Thank you. No, the Torah says, and the Gemara discusses it, that Shaul HaMelech, as righteous as he was, got Yetzirah, got Ruach Shtut, what they call Yetzirah, and he was led to believe that David HaMelech was trying to steal his kinghood. And unfortunately, he believed a few wicked people like Doeg Adomi, Shem Reshaim Yerkav, who has no share of the world to come, because Doeg was the head of the Sanhedrin, was the head rabbi. And that led Shaul to make multiple mistakes as a result of this single mistake that he made, if you will. And this is why this led him to make other mistakes, but nonetheless, he's still considered a tzaddik. He still went to Gan Eden. He still has a share of the world to come, next to Shmuel HaNavi. So let's not misunderstand and think that that Shaul was anything less than he was, which is being a tzaddik. But making mistakes, yes, he made mistakes, and he paid for them, but he still was a very, very big tzaddik, and his Olam HaBa is right next to Shmuel HaNavi. As far as the mistakes, that in essence is not only showing that he was, despite being a tzaddik, he's still human. Just like despite being a tzaddik, Moshe is still human. He made, in essence, in his level, he made mistakes. Avraham, in his level, made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So it shows that they're still human. They're not supernatural. But aside from that, it also shows how objective our Torah is to show the good and the bad in everybody. Unlike the other religions that only personify their leaders as perfect and practically deities, or outright deities, our Torah is objective. Our Torah shows the good and the bad about the sages, the forefathers, and everybody in it. There is and tzaddik shelo yichta. There's no righteous person that won't sin. This is a rule in the world. So long as you're a human being, you have an evil inclination, and you will make certain mistakes. There's the Gemara discusses the mistakes of certain sages and how Hashem saves some of them from them beforehand, some afterhand. For example, immorality. There's a rule in the Torah, in a Torah that en apotropos la'arayot, meaning that no one is above immorality. Meaning that if a person doesn't work on themselves day and night and doesn't watch themselves, they could easily fall for immorality. Rabbi Meir Balanes, Rabbi Akiva almost fell for immorality. Both of them, the Yetzirah transformed himself into a very beautiful woman, and they went after those women, literally running after her. Imagine this old tzaddik running after a woman. Yeah, that's what happened. And one of them swam across the river for it, and wanted to go after this woman. And last minute, their Torah protected them, and the Yetzirah transformed back into the Yetzirah that he is, into the Satan that he is, and said to them, if they didn't scream your name in Shamayim saying, Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Meir Balanes, their Torah is very precious to me. Don't mess with them. I would murder you right now. I would kill you right now for even wanting to sin with this thing that you thought was a woman. Meaning that, but it was to show them that they're still human. Even Abaye says that when he saw these two young people didn't know each other. They went on a long path, and Abaye was an old man, was following them to see, to make sure they're not sinning. Followed them for a very, very long distance. And he saw that once they got to that city that they want, they parted ways without ever touching each other. Nothing. They were in the woods, they were this, never touching himself. Abaye started crying. He says, if I was him, I would have sinned already with this girl. Meaning that no one is above the immorality. No one is above sin altogether. Hence the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into the world TeShuva, to put TeShuva. So it's not such a anomaly that Shaul HaMelech made a mistake. But again, the sin itself doesn't make the person into a wicked person. It's what they do after the sin that makes them into a wicked or a righteous person. If a person sins and then does tshuva, then guess what? That person is a tzaddik. That person is a righteous person. They even get merit for that tshuva. They get rewarded for that tshuva. On the other hand, if the person makes a sin and then just says, you know what, I made one sin, I'm going to continue making sins, that's a wicked person. That's a wicked person. It's the decision of what you're going to do after you fall that is going to determine who you really are. So that's in essence the difference. When Shaul HaMelech first realized that he made a mistake with Amalek, and he should have also destroyed their cattle, their sheep. He initially tried defending himself by blaming it on something else, but when he realized that he was mistaken, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry. Shmuel said to him, had you said I'm sorry right away, Hashem would have forgiven you. Because you tried defending it, Hashem didn't forgive you, and you lost your kinghood. What he didn't also know is that Amalek were also mechashfim, they were also wizards, and they actually transformed themselves into sheep. So the sheep that he was supposed to slaughter, he didn't slaughter because he wanted to bring them as sacrifices for Hashem. Even though Hashem didn't ask him for sacrifices, he asked them to kill everything that they have. He wanted to do a mitzvah that no one asked for. And on him it is written, Al tiyeh tzaddik harbe. On Shaul it's written, don't be overly righteous. Don't do more than Hashem asked you to do. Hashem said, do A, do A. Don't do A and then say, you know what, let me just do B, C, and D. No one asked you to do B, C, and D. And this is not to be confused with Chassidut. Chassidut is not doing B, C, and D. Chassidut is doing A better than you're even supposed to. You're still with A, but it's even better than what A is supposed to be. But the point is, with Shaul HaMelech, he made a mistake by adding something that he wasn't supposed to add. And then when he was rebuked for it, instead of immediately saying, I'm sorry, he made the same mistake as Adam HaRishon, who didn't say, I'm sorry right away, and therefore neither one of them were forgiven. Were forgiven right away, only after the fact. They said, I'm sorry, but they still had to get some type of punishment. Had he said, I'm sorry right away, then Hashem would have forgiven him. And to also prove that Shaul HaMelech was a very righteous person, is the Gemara says that if Shaul HaMelech and David HaMelech's roles were different, the opposite of each other, meaning that if David HaMelech would have been the first king, and Shaul HaMelech would have been the younger one, Hashem would have allowed Shaul to kill David. Meaning he didn't allow David to kill Shaul, even though David could have killed Shaul, still it didn't happen. It wasn't the will of Hashem. Had it been the opposite, it would have. Shaul was such a righteous person, he would have actually allowed Shaul to kill David. Now, this is again not to compete with who's more righteous, David or Shaul. We have no concept of what righteousness is when it comes to these tzaddikim. But the point being is that Shaul, as righteous as he was fallible, just like all of mankind are. But that's the reason why we rely on a Kadosh Baruch Hu's miraculous creation of allowing us to do tshuva.